The NHL playoff picture is still up in the air, but here in Winnipeg, fans are confident the arena will echo with the sound of white noise again.
Let's go! Go, Jets, go!
Winnipeg is back in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome back to the landing strip for Game 41 against the Detroit Red Wings for your favorite team, the Fraud Squad, the Winnipeg Jets. And as usual, this show is brought to you by From Financial. I'm not even going to go on a soliloquy here. Let's bring Mikey in and start talking about this one. Mikey, how are you doing tonight?
That's a big oof from me tonight on that game. That was not the Jets' best performance by a country mile. It's a little bit of a concerning trend these last few games. You know, we were hoping they were going to be starting the year hot and in the right direction and, you know, finally getting some wins under their feet. And instead it feels like we're kind of falling into some bad habits and, taking our eye off the prize a little bit. You know, can't wait till we get to see the return of Dylan Samberg to try to hopefully shore things up a bit. But what's out there right now is not great, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, shoring up and getting Dylan Samberg is got to be a big one. Pretty concerning, especially early in this one, what we saw with that decor when it's missing both Josh Morrissey and Dylan Samberg. And it was interesting. It made me think of a tweet that Duncan Morrison had put out this week, Slam Dunk, who I was having a bit of a back and forth after the Heinola 2 good games back to back. That share has gone off the wayside. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But he had suggested, like, with them pulling out Heinola and just kind of looking at Coughlin, Stanley, Fleury, Pionk, Miller, whoever, without those two key guys, just how bad this decor looks. And we got to see it for a period. Thank God Josh Morrissey came back, who I think is the hero in this one. That was a guy that tried everything possible to bring the Winnipeg Jets back into this one. But a lot of concerning signs, both with the 5-on-5 offense, which has been a full year sort of thing. How often have we talked about that? And the power play kind of juicing those offensive numbers. And the PK lets in 2 out of 3 today. So wasn't a fun one against a Detroit team that I didn't see anything sexy out of tonight. That's for sure. A team that's off the wayside and back-to-back losses against the Ducks and Red Wings. Not good, Bob. It is January, I guess. It is January. This is kind of the thing with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah. On Josh Morrissey, are we ready to start calling him Wolverine? The way that he heals, runs off to the locker room, gets stitched up, and hops right back out there to jump on the power play. That was incredible. You know, that guy is an absolute warrior. So we're real lucky to have Morrissey back there and able to come right back out and finish off that game, because if he hadn't, boy, that scoreline would have been just rough. We saw what it
Yeah.
looked like when they were scrambling with the 5 that they had at that moment, and oh my God, it's not a good look. We've talked about the Jets being, one key piece up top away from disaster. Man, if they lose Josh Morrissey, that back end just completely falls apart.
For sure. And we got to see a lot of combinations and a lot of ice time for some guys. And it's safe to say the depth chart is not that it's ever not been set, but you see it in a game like today that it is set. They lose Colin Miller later in that one. I didn't see any updates there. What was being said on the broadcast on that one?
So after the game, Coach Arniel came out and said that they won't know more about Miller until tomorrow. So they're not giving any update tonight, which is a little worrisome for my eyes and ears when I think about past instances where, generally if a guy is going to be okay, they'll let you know right away. They'll be like, yep, he's fine. He's just, they're taking a look at him for precautions or this or that. Arniel's comments were that they have no comment right now. They won't know more until tomorrow. So that's when we'll get an update. So that's a little worrisome if they lose Miller for a long stretch.
Yeah, we shall see, because this decor is in disarray as it is. As Don Dawson over on YouTube puts it, when 44 went out in the first, the Jets D looked like the Keystone Cops, and it was rough. And it's hard to suggest that any guy really stepped up in that time period. Josh Morrissey comes back, gets stitched up, jumps out on that power play, goes back out. Comes back and just went into total beast mode. Obviously scores that clapper, but he was creating like crazy. We were seeing him in second effort, third effort. Josh Morrissey is going to try and will this team to a victory, and unfortunately it didn't come there. But I did want to start with the positives, because he really did stand out to me today in nothing but the best ways. In
nothing but the best ways. His play on the ice, his want and desire to get back out to the ice after what, a lot of guys would take. I'm getting my face stitched up. I'm not going right back out. But, yeah, incredible. Like I said, we're real lucky to have a guy like Josh Morrissey on our team.
Yeah. Could not agree more. Anything else that stands out in a positive way? Actually, one thing I will say with this was another game I thought the top line was strong in.
Yep.
Didn't get the goals didn't come in bunches for them like we've seen them put the team on the back in the last little stretch, but I did think they were solid in this one. But outside that, and maybe it's the frustration of how the first and third are, because I did think the second was a much better period. But man, it's frustrating, and it's stuff that we've seen before. And before we even get into some of the player stuff, man, Arniel absolutely frustrated me to no end today with things aren't going well. We see the blender come out, and it's like 2 shifts, and it's back to the comfort zone. It's like I'm sitting there wondering how his wife has to feel sometimes living with the guy. Like, gets up, turns the blender on, annoys the whole household, and decides he doesn't want to, drink from the drink that he got up to make. Like, it's infuriating. And I like where he's going with some of these mixes, but we're 41 games in, still going to the same group. Can't let anything kind of get an extended look, but without him shitting his pants behind the bench and going back to what's comfy. And what's comfy is not good enough at 5-on-5. It has not been good enough at 5-on-5. And it's a team that should be able to put more pucks and create more sustained offense at 5-on-5 than they're able to do it. And it's just like, why can't he clearly is seeing something for 3 games straight now that is a problem. That is, okay, we need to get a jolt into this lineup halfway through because the start wasn't great again. Oh, we got to get a jolt. And then the jolt lasts for like 3 shifts. What's the point? You clearly identified something.
I've got
Why go back?
I've got such bad news for you, my guy. So what we call the blender and what we perceive as Arniel identifying that there's something needs a change within the groups and wanting to try out an experiment. He talked about it in the post-game comments. I have them queued up if you want to hear them. I don't think you're going to like them, and the chat should be able to hear this as well.
Hey, can I give you my theory?
Yeah, yes, please.
So my theory on the line shift, and it was only 2 shifts, was Ehlers was like terrible in this game. I honestly, Nick Ehlers could. The amount he was fighting the puck and just the lack of effort on some of those forward checks, I did not like Nick Ehlers in this one at all. And my assumption was he was trying to get Nick Ehlers going with that bump.
Well, here, I'll let Scott Arniel tell you what he was thinking.
Both our goals were shots with tips or deflections or rebounds. That
Starting
type of stuff.
right here.
Move the lines around a little bit. What did you see from?
Yeah, kind of. I was just trying to get people playing. Honestly, it just guys. It's hard for guys to sit there for sort of 4 or 5 minutes there at the start, and then I kind of would just want to get up and running, and then it was just kind of feeling that second period. We had the momentum.
Back,
and I was trying to get KC and Ehlers and Perfetti. I was just trying to get them back on the ice as much as possible because it just felt like we had momentum, and that's kind of more. It wasn't anything specific. It was just trying to get guys out. And the other side, this is like, and I have never used the excuse of the schedule. It was 5 and 8. We had some guys that were a little bit tired and fatigued, and was trying to use kind of everybody and get guys their rest between shifts, and then throw them back out when they're ready to go.
So, yeah, he wasn't experimenting. It's not trying to change up the lines. They were just trying to get some extra minutes for a few guys and give a rest to a couple others. It's no blender. It's no experiment. Like I've said before, this is plug and play. These spots are assigned in pen, written in. And if somebody is unavailable for whatever reason, injury or what have you, then it's going to be, a little bit of a shift here and there. But yeah, I don't think there is a blender. I don't think it exists. I think what we've been seeing this year and why he drops it so quickly is because it's exactly what he just explained there. Right from the horse's mouth.
Hey, tough schedule. You just need to get a little bump in there sometimes.
5 and 8.
I don't know, man. It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating because we know this, and like I'm seeing it in the. Let's go to the chat. You know what? Let's let the chat decide where I'm gonna go right now because my mind's just in a blender. Speaking of blenders, my mind is in a blender at the Jets' lack of being able to go to a blender in any shape or form. Though on that topic, I do like how he started the game with what we ended last game with.
Yes.
But I gotta say, I can't say enough about how much it got a little exciting when I saw Gabe Velarde not on that top line and them willing to change something there for 2 shifts. But yeah, no, I thought the Lowry, Perfetti, Ehlers line really struggled, and I like I kind of said before, my guess, I did think this was another tough night for Nik Ehlers, who. And he's going to be listening to this too, and I'm pissed he beat me to this on social media because I was talking with Jet Centric before the game and Liz Hood with WST. We went out for some food before, and Liz had asked me what part of my team signed Nik Ehlers or not re-sign Nik Ehlers. And you know what his game's reminding me of? And Tony beat me to it on Twitter post-game. We're seeing a guy that is just not being that play-driving winger at 5-on-5 that we've seen so long. I've talked at length about how I don't see the Cole Perfetti, Nik Ehlers fit. Both guys now over multiple years see better results without each other, and the Winnipeg Jets do need to go there. But I do remember a certain play-driving winger start to get a power play bump that was extended and then bought out. And I'm seeing a lot of the similar trends as we did before that guy was paid. And it is a concern for me.
And if you, for the listening folks at home, that player would be?
Blake Wheeler.
Yeah.
Elite play driver who was, doing like 50, 60, 65, 70 points.
Yep.
And then that power play pops off a line and he's a 92-point player and you want to pay him because he hit a 92-point thing. But the 5-on-5 game was already starting to decline. I'm wondering if we're seeing a similar trajectory with my boy Ehlers. Honestly, it wasn't good.
It'd be a much earlier start of that decline in terms of age than what we saw with Blake Wheeler, if Ehlers is starting at now, right? I'm hoping that's not the case, right? It's just we're in a spot of bad usage, line mates that aren't going to be the ones that are pulling out the best of them. So I'm just hoping it's more so that than anything else at the moment, but. Because, yeah, if we're seeing a declining Nik Ehlers now, we may as well wrap it up.
It's also I don't think he's going to sign anyways, but Choices goes with that Arniel quote where I was wanting to go and I was trying to figure out how I wanted to go about it. Choices says over on Twitch, "Oh man, starting the excuses sounds like a guy who doesn't quite know what to do." And it's getting harder and harder to say that that's not what's going on here, because there's been no answers, no change up. There's been not even an attempt outside a period at a time.
Yep.
Like, and that's the thing, and that's what's frustrating for me and how I see it, all this. And there's always different perspectives. You're going to hear different things from different people, and I respect that. The way I see this is, and I've said this all year, if the Winnipeg Jets stick to this formula, April's going to look the same as what it's looked the last 3 years. And why should anyone expect any different? I'll throw it out to our listeners. I saw on Twitter today a Jets fan had gotten pretty frustrated with that game and had teed up the Jets and what their playoff was going to look like in Mike McIntyre's mentions. And Mike had, quote, retweeted that saying, "How could we possibly know that before the playoffs? This is a first-place team on January 4th. Have we learned no lessons covering this team and watching this team and breaking down publicly available data and where these things trend and what you need to do to go on a run? Why are we continuing to fall into the same trap with this group and what we've seen? The reality is there's two things that they need as an organization. Of course, some of these players got to step up, like Nick Ehlers I was just talking about at 5-on-5. But unless a coach is willing to change what this roster construction could look like, we've seen no signs that that's a real thing. I mean, I guess Lowry played for the second game in a row with Ehlers today, so maybe. Or the management group has to take a swing at the level we have never seen them go to address the talent on this roster. Those are the only two ways things are changing in Winnipeg. We saw a lot of insiders, Sarah Valley Drager and stuff, talking about the Jets are maybe pondering holding on to their first and going in it with this group. Guess what? You might play 4 games instead of 5 like you did last year. Someone's got to wake up and be willing to get uncomfortable in this organization and in a hurry. A hurry.
So how much water do you want me to throw on everything that you just said? Because unfortunately,
I'll be the
wet.
water on it.
I'll be the wet blanket.
I have a great ending for it. So throw the water on it.
I'll be the wet blanket. They're not going to do it. It just, we're hearing it from Drager. We're hearing it from Saravelli. We're hearing it from the local guys as well.
Oh, they're
the ad is going to be not what we think it is. It's not going to be a 2C. It's not going to be a 1C. It's going to be depth up front and maybe a top 4 on the back end, maybe, but not with term. It's not happening. I don't see it. They're going to keep that first. They're not going to spend it. I'm going to, and they're not going to change the lineup. I think we're going to go in with this group. Lowry at 2C, I think might stick. I think that might finally be the spot they're going to leave him in. Outside of that, and Jonathan Taves coming in to sell a crap load of jerseys at 3C. I don't know if we're going to get the big ad up front. I really don't.
Okay, before I pitch our audience a bet that I pitched on McIntyre's tweet, as Choices says here, I'm tired of people talking about the regular season like it is equivalent to the playoffs, which you get away with in the regular season doesn't fly in the playoffs.
Correct.
I'll throw the same offer to our listeners. I'll throw a little kitty of a wager pool to the side here. If the Winnipeg Jets do not make a serious impact ad, this is where I disagree with you, and I'll get to that in a second, and you know where I'm going.
Yep.
But I'll offer this up. If you're fully believing that this first place team is going on a deep run, I got Vother already on a sucker's bet. Thank you, Vother. I'm looking forward to collecting that one in April. But if you're confident and you disagree how I see this, my DMs are open. Wagers are open. I don't have this team without significant changes making it past 6 games. I don't.
Yep.
So I'm throwing that out there, but I'm also going to throw out a wager out for you, Mikey.
Hit me.
We got to figure out a price. This is kind of live audience here, but I'll still make the bet. The Winnipeg Jets trade the 2025 first without even thinking twice. What my read on what's happening? And I remember it was similar last year, and we can't get too much prisoner of the moment. I believe the Winnipeg Jets are using the media to tame down expectations so they can over-deliver. This org loves the PR hit. When they do really well on something that people aren't expecting, they hate negative PR. I mean, I know they're not a fan of me. They're moving that pick. They're settling things down. They're trying to gain leverage within the trade talks within the league. I refuse to believe for a second that pick's staying. They will make ads, but I guess what I'm saying is They need a real impact scoring center and a real impact top right-handed defenseman, or you're going to see some more results. It can't be a plug-and-play quality guy that just doesn't have enough. There needs to be a big ad, and we heard he's available again today.
All right, I'll take that. I think they're going to hold on to that first. I think you're going to see Jonathan Toews as your big name up front as your ad. If he even decides to come back, there was reports today that now he's thinking about waiting till the off season. So even if that's it, but again, it'll be somebody like that. I think it's going to be a depth piece up front, and they're going to try to add some depth on the D, and they're just going to hope for a healthy top six at what they currently have. I think it's going to be depth pieces going in. That's where I'm at.
No chance. You're falling for it. You're falling for it. This team's buying. It's just, is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough? We'll settle. We'll settle on an amount, and we'll let the audience know.
Excellent.
Or settle on maybe something goofy.
Oh,
maybe we do something content-wise.
We'll have a good punishment, yeah.
But, yeah, we'll figure that one out. But they're buying. I refuse to believe this team is not buying.
Did they spend their first last year?
Yeah, Monahan.
Oh, yeah. I always forget about Monahan, yeah. Toffoli didn't cost
earlier.
it, but Monahan, right, yep.
So that's where that's at. Matt Hyman says, "Where's Chevy's coffee shop anyways? Let's go." So Elias McCracken pitches an interesting concept here, and I'm going to throw it out there for a discussion point. Anyone see a possible parallel between Sam Bennett's career curve and early Perfetti? Maybe he needs a change of environment. Bennett was called a bust in his early career, getting drummed out of Calgary, only to bring impact when he landed in Florida. Bennett did not play a heavy, gritty game in Calgary. He tried to play up to his draft spot, aim for points, and just didn't come. What do you think of this? It's an interesting little comparison that Elias McCracken has drummed up for us today.
Yeah, that's real interesting. In one way, I hope that it's not the case. I hate to think that we still have a locker room and an environment that isn't conducive to having these young offensive players have the space to find their game and want to be here, right? We know that for a little while, it sounds like that's kind of what the locker room was like under some of the previous like player leadership and management and coaching and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that's not the case, that, you know, he'll go off somewhere else and realize the potential that, you know, we've seen and that we want to see come out from him. But I definitely, it makes a lot of sense in that aspect of a guy trying to maybe play up to lofty expectations and, you know, gripping the stick a little too tight, and maybe going somewhere else gives you that space to breathe. But I hope not. I really hope that we're not still, kind of chasing out young guys like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've talked about it too many times to keep mentioning, but that second line has been the worst line in hockey. So you're not getting the most out of Nick Ehlers and Cole Perfetti. Cole Perfetti and Nick Ehlers have both done a lot better without each other. So that's where I have trouble with the idea of, say, giving up on the player, but I would also totally use the player for a big move this year, and I see no issue with that. Yeah. So I do wonder what I'm wondering in the comparison. The tough part about the comparison is it seems like Perfetti's locked in to be a winger, not a center, and there is more value in centers, and Sam Bennett has become that. But I really am intrigued by the idea of the player not really working out or needing to get elsewhere to really break out, because I don't think the Winnipeg Jets have handled Cole Perfetti to help him have this success that they drafted him to be. I think he's got to be better in some areas of the ice, but I also do think he's one of the most reliable defensive forwards for a young guy already at his age, and that the offensive side of the game I'm hoping still comes. Obviously, there's some concerns, though, too, like the foot speed, but it's a real – Elias has got me thinking here. I'm going to be thinking about this one for a few days. That was a really interesting comp.
It's a good comp, especially because we know, like, we can see where Perfetti is successful, right? When you look at him on that power play too, when they're playing a system and with a group of guys that works with his skill set, he can do it. He can play at the NHL level, no problem. He's also defensively sound for a young guy who's, you know, looked at as an offensive guy. He's actually great with his stick defensively. So, yeah, it's, you know, I think it's going to come with Perfetti. He just needs to be put in a better position. And maybe that means less minutes on a third line with, you know, guys that'll work a little bit better with him. that would also give you the chance to move Nino up with, you know, Lowry and whoever that other winger is going to be, if it's Ehlers, if it's whoever, which, you know, I think more minutes for Nino Niederreiter is always a good thing. When he's out there, it's fun to watch and he produces, right? So, yeah, there's ways to help guys out that, you know, the Jets don't seem to really want to be trying a lot, because, again, that involves shifting the entire lineup around. And they don't want to do that. Guys have their spots put in and their role, and that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Rahul, interesting actually. Comment from him as he called in to discuss this topic. Not quite buying the Wheeler comp until Ehlers plays with something other than a guy who has won 40-point season in 12 years and a guy who spends more time in a drought than California. And again, that's why I don't want to make too many big picture decisions on a guy like Cole Perfetti, a guy like Nick Ehlers, until we see what this group could look like, getting more out of those players and the entire top 9. And that's where I have the most trouble here. I did find the Perfetti, Lowry, Velarde line at Jetcentric. Thanks for throwing that one in the chat. A really interesting line. It's a line I think would be really solid defensively. It's a line I think would be really tough to play against in the O-zone, and I really like the first shift we saw of it. The one concern I'd have with it is if they are playing in their D-zone, transition and speed. That's one of the slower lines in hockey, in a sport that's getting a lot more quicker. What I liked about today's blender was it was one shift away, one little move away from where I think the Jets could ideally get more out of the top 9 group. We'll see if it ever comes. I bet you're right that it won't, but just some of the things I was seeing there, and a good point from Rahul to talk about here.
Yeah, I think I think I fall more closer to where Rahul is with it as well. I think it's way too early to close the book on Ehlers until we get him in a position where he can be at his best. That's your job as the coaching staff, you know?
I'll say this though. I can't fully buy into that, because this has been an elite 5-on-5 driver with a variety of players over the course of his career, and he's not that right now.
Absolutely, he's not that right now. I can't
go too far into it's just not an Ehlers issue right now.
No, absolutely, but it's compounded, right, when it's also not being given the opportunity to work out of that funk with quality. Like you said, it's both. It definitely is both. I'm just not ready to close that book and say to let him walk if we can still get him signed for something decent.
Everything at the end of the day is about value, right? In this sport, at the end of the day, everything is about the cap.
Yep. Everybody's got their price. Everybody's got what they're worth against the overall cap, right? So, yeah, it's, you know, we never want to go crazy with guys, but if we can get that value, if you catch them in a down year, then I think it's all right.
The thing is, I don't know if this will be painted as a down year because of the points.
Yes, exactly. That's true.
How about, haven't been too high on their game lately, but the Jets' 4th line gives them their best shift of the third period. It felt like Morton Barron has a chance to tie it at that point or bring it within one with a wide open cage, but unfortunately he would have needed the net to be soccer regulations size to actually score on that one. But I thought there were signs of a much better effort from that 4th line tonight.
Yeah, the 4th line, they were trying, man. Like they were giving it their all. It's not a skilled group, and every once in a while they'll be able to, knock one of those in and fall forward on it. But yeah, you're not expecting them to be the ones to pull the Jets out of a game like this. But their speed was good. Again, that's something that they've been doing well all year, and it was on display again tonight.
And Turd Ferguson getting some love from Scott Westman in the YouTube chat with the most intelligent /truth of the night. So I'm going to throw it out there. We're going to throw this one out there. Turd Ferguson says, we've been chasing an Ehlers center for almost a decade. Now it will be a decade trying to find Fetz one.
Yeah. Does anybody remember Olli Jokinen? Like, we've been doing this forever. This has always been the issue. We need a number 2 center. We need a number 2 center. Hey, we're going into the playoffs. We need a number 2 center. Can the Jets trade for a number 2 center at the deadline? It's the same. Even Sarah Orleski on the last broadcast, not tonight's, the game before, had said, like, man, I think I've heard the Jets have those needs before. Like, it's a bit of a running gag at this point that's the big hole in what they need. maybe that's Adam Lowry. Maybe they've finally figured it out, and Lowry's going to fill that spot and develop some great chemistry all of a sudden with Nik Ehlers. But we've always talked about that if the Jets want to be a true Stanley Cup contender, you probably want to have Adam Lowry as your overmatched 3C, the guy who's way better than their 3C. You know what I mean? So that doesn't seem to be the way they're going to go, I don't think. But you feel differently, so I'm hoping you're the one who's right. I really hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, Chevy watched that game, saw the lack of ability to score, and decided he was going to listen to Friedman's 32 thoughts and the landing strip, and decided to go all in on Elias Pettersson. Not that I actually believe that, but
in the broadcast tonight, they said Vancouver wants a center back as the headliner. Do the Jets have a headlining center that they can send back to make that trade work?
Not on the active roster. So, yeah, I'd seen that too. And my thought was that definitely makes it a lot tougher for Winnipeg if they decide they want a young NHL center.
Yep.
My thought was the workaround for that is potentially a top 6 winger and Jaeger or Lambert headlining maybe gets you into that combo because you're getting a center close while getting an impact player still on the roster. But, yeah, that definitely does not help the Jets' position.
So the Jets should start playing Gabe Vilardi at center for the next little while to showcase him for Vancouver.
You've jumped on the train, eh?
I mean, if it gets Pettersson, but no, I'm still, like I said, very much on. They're gonna add a depth piece at best.
So let's end the Perfetti talk here with Elias McCracken saying Perfetti is a center. Send him. And Mike F1010 says, and I couldn't agree more with him here, and I do think the longer the second line struggles, the more it'll up this type of situation. Mike says, if the Jets somehow do address the 2 glaring holes, a top pair right-handed D and a 1BC, this year Cole Perfetti has to be one of the pieces going the other way in one of those packages. He's just not a win-now player, at least how the Jets are trying to do it. He's pigeonholed, and it doesn't add up to win right now. Thoughts there?
Again, if it's Elias Pettersson we're talking about, yes, absolutely. Anybody is going back the other way for me. There's no untouchable at that spot. If it's some other large piece, something else that's like a big headlining type of piece that you can make work, like, yeah, it'll hurt. I'll be real sad to see a guy that I think real highly of go back the other way. But yeah, the Jets are in win now mode, and if there is a trade out there for an impact top NHL center that they can come in to make that work, and Perfetti's a piece that's interesting going back the other way, absolutely. That's coming from a guy who I love Cole Perfetti.
Okay, so we have a couple interesting comments here, and they're going to work off each other here. So stick with me, Mikey, as I make this all together. The YouTube chat's got some interesting stuff here. Toronto Sports Network, friend of the show, nice to see you here. Toronto Sports Network says 3 most visible players tonight were 9, 14, and 44, 17 an honorable mention, and went on to say Hanela stepped up tonight. What do you think of those, or that list of players? And I thought we talked up Morrissey early. I guess my question is, what did you think of Hanela today? Because for me, it was a mixed bag.
That's exactly it. It was a bit rough to start for Hanela for sure. It did not look good out there initially. I thought he had a better second. I thought the Jets overall had a better second, just kind of playing right. And I think the struggles in the first definitely related to losing Morrissey and then losing Miller, and just the shuffle around of who you're playing with, what side you're playing, how often you're playing. He was just making bad decisions. He was trying things that just don't work. So, but I thought he kind of figured it out as the game went on, and definitely finished defensively a lot stronger than he started. But I have a tough time with Hanela right now, just because there's been no consistency, right? He's been bumped around from side to side, partner to partner. We haven't had a chance to really see him get a run just on his onside and with a consistent partner. So it's tough. Definitely a bad start, but he kind of found it as it went on.
It's a horrible start. Really, really bad first period for old Ville Heinola today. I did agree, and I think this is a good thing when you see it from a young player to be able to find their game within the middle of it. I think it's very easy for those games to get away from a younger player and not be able to kind of adjust and mentally and physically find it in the middle. I thought that the back 40 was better, though there were still some problematic aspects. Doesn't pick up the Brinkat stick. Cost them the 3-1 goal.
Yep.
Though that's a tough turnover from Iafallo in the defensive zone slot as well. Goes off a skate. I mean, those plays happen, but he's got to have his stick there. And I think you basically how I would sum this game up from what I saw from Ville Heinola, if you're someone that's worried about the size and him getting thrown around and all that, I think you saw enough that today terrified you from him ever playing another NHL game with how much he was getting kind of out-muscled and all that.
Yep.
I think if you're someone that likes to see a D-man jump in and get fed from Nino while they're trying to come back in that game or move the puck up ice once it got more comfortable on his stick in the second and third, I think you like a lot of the things that you saw from Ville Heinola in this one. And for me, it was a mixed bag, but I liked the response after a real, real tough first.
Yeah, like you said, the ability to make that change in the middle of the game, not let the bad start completely just take over your mind and your mental state is huge and a good sign. So, yep, hopefully they can get some consistency going with him and he can start finding, the game that we think that he has, the one that he's shown at every other level, and hopefully it can translate up to the NHL.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, today was his career high 13th NHL game in a season in his career at 23 years old. So, I mean, I said it before the year. I'll say it here again. I do think he won't be a Winnipeg Jet by the end of the deadline. I still feel that way right now. But, yeah, I think he needs to change the scenery and a real run for his career sake.
On YouTube there, Julien Labossiere points out that poor Billy's been docked around ever since getting healthy. Hasn't looked good, but hasn't been put in a great situation. And I think that just really sums it up. We think the game is there. We've seen it at other spots. We've seen it pop up here at the NHL level occasionally. Toronto Sports Network points out how his stretch passes are fantastic. And when those are going, they're a thing of beauty to watch, to just have him stretch the ice. So I hope it's like I said, if it's a trade that's going to make the Jets that much better in a win now type of situation, I'm not opposed to really trading anybody, but that's going to be a guy that's going to hurt to see flourish in another place.
Big Stan over 20 minutes again today, and you know what? I thought this was a better game from him. Obviously, some highlight type plays with the big hit that hurts the Red Wing in the first. He had a little. It's funny because the whole online meme of Logan and Ville Orr, right?
Yep.
He has a little Logan Orr moment with that step in from the blue line that goes off the bar early in that one. Another player where I think if you're super pro Stanley, you love a lot of what you saw. If you're timid with him, I think you saw the good and the bad today. Two guys that are fighting for they're not really fighting if you look at the ice side.
They're not fighting.
But two guys that continue to battle, I think showed the good and the bad in their games tonight.
Yeah, you got to see Logan Stanley's elite penalty killing on full display again tonight, where he was the active screen for the opposing team. That seems to be a bit of a trend lately. They've realized they can use the 6'4" giraffe on skates to block out the goaltender and score a goal off of it. So, and he gets lost out there when there's too many options. He's not able to identify where the threat is with the puck, and he gets caught in no man's land. It's the penalty killing. If they really want to play Logan Stanley, they are dead set that this is the guy that he brings the size that they want, and he brings the blue line in type of offense that they like. They need to get him off the penalty kill. They just have to at this point. It's not fair to him. He doesn't know what he's doing out there. It's not fair to the rest of the team. It's not fair to your goaltender. It's not fair to the fans who are having to watch it. And I hate having to shit on him every game because of a boneheaded decision, because he gets lost when there's too many options. So if they're really going to be, if this is the guy, and it looks like it is, they've got to figure something else out on the penalty kill.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. So the comment section, it's time to be truthful. Obviously hyping it up, but I see multiple comments on it, so let's go there next. Toronto Sports Network 243 says, who would you guys let go in a trade for a center? I really dislike the idea of parting with Jets groomed players. We'll go to that next. Sorry. Rahul had said, Nick, be real. You think DNSE is trading for $11.6 million Elias Pettersson to play like 16 minutes behind Scheifele? And then over on Twitch, Zooch40, good to see you back, says there's no chance they go for Pettersson. Mike F says, I agree with Zooch not going after EP40. Sorry, Nick. I'm just going to throw this out here. I don't actually believe the Winnipeg Jets are going to be the team that makes the EP40 swing. If I was a betting man, which I am, I would be betting he ends up in the state of New York with one of the 3 faltering teams there, if he's moved even. They're listening on both him and JT Miller, and it seems like Miller might be willing to move that no trade clause or no move clause. So, no, I would not expect the Winnipeg Jets are actually going to be the team that lands Elias Pettersson. That being said, I also don't buy the idea that he would be playing 16 minutes behind Scheifele, because I will continue to remind people that the org valued PLD more than Scheifele until PLD wouldn't sign. And they were playing him with Kyle Connor. So I will continue to point that out. And even I can't see the Winnipeg Jets, even with their faults, not recognizing a star player like that. As Kevin Kowalik sums it up probably best. Of course not. Jets will not trade for him. It's just fun to think about. It's fun to think about and fun to talk about because it is the one big swing that could finally put this team. It's the swing. If you've looked at, and Mikey, I imagine you've seen this, The Athletic had that breakdown years ago of what was the consistent themes with Stanley Cup winners, and what did that roster need to look like? What levels were needed to hit in your line 1 center, in your line 2 center, your top D, your top goalie, and such like that. The Winnipeg Jets have not been able to fill those with this core group since 2018, 2019, and we know what that collapse looked like. You go out and you move one of those wingers we've talked about potentially needing to go in an Elias Pettersson deal, plus futures, and all of a sudden you're filling up that Stanley Cup roster model in a way we haven't seen in half a decade. That's why I am so passionate about the EP40 idea. That is why I talk about it. That's why I want to have fun with it, because EP40 would be the swing that the Winnipeg Jets could actually put themselves into a Stanley Cup window for the rest of Connor Hellebuyck's career. Do I expect it? No. I don't even think it's remotely likely. But I'm here to say, and here to make the case, that he is the biggest and best opportunity they've had in some time, probably ever in this org's history, because of the lack of the trade clause. He's prime aged, and he'd instantly be the best player in Winnipeg, outside of Connor Hellebuyck, and maybe Josh Morrissey. For me, it's a no-brainer as far as trying to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it's what he represents. It's what he represents, right? He represents that big piece that the only way you get those big pieces generally are you either have to draft them, so you've got to be at the top of the draft, winning the draft lottery, which means you stunk for a while, or you've got to try to sign them in free agency in their prime at a way overpriced level that you generally don't see, especially with the way that contracts are structured now. You're not getting a lot of those guys in their prime hitting free agency. You're getting it generally a little bit afterwards now, right? So to have a guy like this at this stage of his career, who is as good as he is, who even when the points aren't there, is a Selke level player, to have him have no trade protection at this particular moment, and to be in a spot where he's, at odds with teammates and management and things, it's a perfect storm of, hey, if the Jets really wanted to put themselves over the top, here's a way that they can do it, jump that line, not have to go through that, we got to be bad for a couple years and get some lottery picks. You can skip all that right now by trying to, go out and make a big splash. Like you said, is it likely or, anywhere near happening? No, definitely not. There are, especially with the, revelations that they want NHL center, they want an NHL center back in that deal. We just don't have that to bargain with at the moment. So, we probably have to focus somewhere else, but it's what Pettersson represents. It's that big swing, that superstar level player ready right now that you can add on to this roster for a deep run for years to come. Is there another player like that out there? No, probably not right now. But is there, slightly lesser degree or slightly shorter term or those type of things? Yeah, there's still spots where they could go out and find that 2C for sure. I'm getting a little worried. I'm getting a little worried about it now.
There's a 2C coming to Winnipeg. I like I said, we'll sort out a bet and we'll announce it to the audience for the next show. But there's a 2C coming to Winnipeg.
Excellent.
On that topic, though, this leads into something. I love it when the combos kind of slide with our chat well. And our chat's got some great insight. I appreciate everyone that's here. Mike F. 1010 says, I could see them bringing in a 1BC with some term this season, but I can't see them bringing in Pionk's replacement while he's playing for his contract. That's rocking the boat too much. And what I find interesting about that one, and I could see that being a thing, because we had heard was it Friedman, I believe, last summer, talking about how the Jets negotiating contracts in season last year had kind of rocked the boat internally. And that is something they're kind of cognizant of right now with all their UFAs. What do you think of Mike F's perspective on how they might approach that?
So I think there's a difference between bringing a guy in during a playoff run and negotiating a new contract. I think those nuances, while small, are still important enough. So I don't think that would hinder them from making a big trade, especially if one is available. Like we talked about, Chevy likes his hockey trades, right? That was the term that Dreger brought up again this week on the segment there. So if that trade is out there for that defenseman, that is a top pairing right-handed defenseman that they can make, I think that's going to be more of the focus and where they'll go with it. And I don't think that'll rock the boat too much. If they all of a sudden decided to try to extend that player in the middle of the season before everybody else because they had an expiring contract, yeah, I could see that maybe being a bit of a thing that may upset some guys, but I don't know if it'll stop them from making a deal. At least I hope not.
Yeah, no, that is interesting, especially that it's approached that way, because we've had this talk a lot. I tend to be in the framework that I believe the Jets will prioritize Neil Pionk of their UFAs. So I do think Mike's thinking along the lines that the Winnipeg Jets organization is thinking. So that's really interesting to me. A 1B center could work too. If you do have two top 30 centers, type level, top 35, maybe you can get through. Yeah, no, that was interesting. The center, and Rahul says it right now, the center market sucks as far as we know it, which is, again, why this big opportunity is so relevant. Back to Toronto Sports Network question, though. Let's see where you stand on, he agrees that you need to get a 2C. What are you willing to give up for that type of player?
I guess it depends on what's coming back. Is it a player with term that is going to be sticking around that we're getting the prime years of, or are we like just a pure rental?
Let's keep going on the Mike train of thought, and we're looking at a center with some term, with a free agent defense ad.
Essentially, any pick and any prospect not at the NHL level is fair game if we're getting back a 2C with term. That's the hole that is, I think, the bigger of the two at the moment, just looking at the way that the lineup is constructed and how things have gone. And I've been back and forth on that so many times on what's the bigger need. It seems to change with the win, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. So yeah, anybody that's not an NHL contributing player really is fair game to get that player back. Even a couple of the guys who are, like I said, if I love Cole Perfetti and I don't want to see him go, but if that's a big piece that somebody on another organization is looking at going, that's that's what we want back going, and here's your piece for that second line center. I'm unfortunately probably hopping on that player depending, of course.
Yeah, I'm someone that doesn't believe in any untouchables. Like, I would trade my mom for the right deal. for the Winnipeg Jets to win a cup. So when it comes to this kind of thing, in terms of realistic options, any of the prospects in the prospect pool, any of the picks, Cole Perfetti for the right player, but it needs to be an impact player with terms.
Exactly. Not
That's the
giving
kind
away
of
for
area
nothing.
we're looking at here.
Yeah, absolutely. They should be in win now mode. It should be, are we getting in a guy that is going to put us over the top right now because we have a good enough group to make that push? Then yeah, there really should be almost no name off of the table. Again, barring, you're not going to move, Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor right now unless it's generational hockey trade because they've demanded out or something. Like you're wanting to make additions to this roster for the most part, right? But yeah, there's really no untouchable when it comes to prospects, to picks, to young players. The Jets should be in win now.
Their entire core is entering their 30s.
Yep. You got to do it for those guys. You have that's like, we talk about it being for us and we want to see the Jets do well, but how about the guys that have been on this team for 5, 6, 7, 8 years that this is their whole life. They want it. Why not give them that extra help? Bringing a guy in shouldn't be looked at as a bad thing. We really need to shake the weird kind of stigma that still kind of sticks around where we think bringing somebody in is going to upset the chemistry, or shipping one guy out is going to lose the entire locker room. We need to move past that if we're going to be a championship caliber organization. We need to be able to bring in a high-end player from another place and have them adapt in quickly. We need to be welcoming. We need to have a group that says, hey, this makes us better, gets us closer to winning a cup. This is a favor for us. It's not an insult. To bring in talent to the group is not insulting the current group, saying you're not good enough. That is a gift. That is help. That is saying, I believe in you so much that I want to give you a present to make you better. That's what we should be thinking when we're talking about this. But it's, for some reason, it still seems to drift into it's a bad thing to say we want to get more talent for this group.
Hey, you summed it up perfectly. And you know what? Another reason I'm confident in my bet, should I wait till we've summed it up? We know this org made Connor Hellebuyck some type of promise. You think they're not going to buy in a year where Connor Hellebuyck's in the Hart conversation, the team is in first place, and potentially chasing a President's Trophy? It's not happening.
God, I hope you're right. You ready for
we
a
got
call?
a call late in the show. Let's go.
Oh, they jumped off. All right.
That works as well. A little chat over on Sportsnet, which features some family of mine, so I'm going to give it a shout out.
Oh, there they are.
Toronto Sports Network says, do you think 64 is getting games to increase the potential of his trade?
No.
My favorite question always, because it's never been the case in Winnipeg. And Auntie Cheryl with Toronto, 64 doesn't look good enough with another team that another team would want him. He isn't polished, especially at 26.
Yep.
We got a call, eh?
We did, but they jumped off again. They didn't want to wait.
Someone's nervous, eh?
Oh, there they are. All right.
Someone's playing a trick on us.
Third time's the charm, caller. You're on the landing strip. Go ahead.
Hey, it's Raul phoning. Sorry, my Bluetooth was not working, fellas.
All good. We can hear you now.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, just follow up on my comments earlier. Like, and Mikey, you might want to cover yours for this, but I can't say Steelers is completely falling off until you get in with better alignment. I'm sorry, but like Nemestikov and Perfetti out there are not top 6 caliber right now. I think that's what I think everyone's in agreement with that, right? Like,
yep.
Calling him the Wheeler fall off, like Wheeler was playing with Scheifele and Connor, and like these two are miles from that. So I can't say I'm not ready to make that proclamation with Steelers just yet. And as far as the the second line center stuff, I just can't see the Jets bringing someone in close to Scheifele's salary for some reason. Like if it's an $8 million center, like for some reason I just can't see the Jets doing that. But when I was watching the game, so I was actually a Wings fan prior to the Jets growing up, and I remember a line with the Wings with Brett Hall, Datsuk and Zetterberg when they first started. And it just had me thinking, like, can you imagine if the Jets had something like that with whichever vet and, like, Chibrikov and Lambert? And, like, every playoff year, there seems like to be, you know, a youngster line. So you go back to L.A. with Carter, Pearson, and Toffoli. I think that was the 2012 or 2014 playoffs. And then New York had it with Hito and Paco and Lafreniere, I believe. So I know it's not going to happen with the Jets. They just don't. I just don't feel like that ever happens. But it would be pretty cool to see something like, you know, Lambert and Chibrikov being those two black aces that show up and actually do something. But as far as like the Jets, the game tonight, like aside from the second period, like that was such a, I don't know, it was a poor effort, and I was kind of half in the bag watching the game, to be honest. So I'll have to watch it on the spreadsheets later and see how exactly everyone played. But I think, I don't know. Ehlers, to me, Nick, your comments about him falling off. Like, don't get me wrong, at 5-on-5, he has not been as good as he has been in previous years. And he's always played with a turnstile of players, right? Like, even guys, like, I know I mentioned the other day, you guys say, like, you know, he's playing with Petty's not the fleet of the foot. Like, Ehlers made it work with Stasny. Like, you want to talk about being fleet as a foot. I don't think there's been a slower player on the Jets than Paul Stasny. And that Canadian division year and the year after, him and Pop and Stasny were like an exceptional line together. So I just think you're just looking at he just needs better players right now. And to me, until we get that, I'm not ready to say he's fallen off completely. Although I do recognize he has not been as prolific as years past. But yeah, anyways, I'll hang up and thanks for taking my call, guys.
Hey, thanks for calling in, Rahul. We love to hear from you. Mikey, you want to start with that anywhere before I dive in?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with a whole lot of what Rahul says. Ehlers he hasn't been good enough 5-on-5 compared to what we're used to seeing out of him, but I'm nowhere near ready to give up on that. He just needs better line mates that work better with him. Completely agree with that aspect. When we're talking about getting to see young players on Stanley Cup rosters, it's something that has been a real occurrence on a whole lot of Stanley Cup winning teams over the years. Even going back, I'm dating myself, but my first thought initially was the Ducks way back when in 2008 with the kid line, right? With Getzlaf and Penner and Corey Perry. You've seen it, like you said, the Hall, Hopkins, you always get these deep playoff runs generally with a team that has those kind of players. And it's maybe less so about just guys being young or whatever, but you want to utilize players on entry-level contracts. You want to utilize guys on second contracts with lower salaries so that you can have that higher-end talent on the top of your roster. I think when you see teams that, have that young player type of line right now, that's generally because you've got some big contracts maybe in other spots and you're trying to offset that. So would it be nice for the Jets to have, the ingenuity to play a Lambert and Chibrikov and see? Who knows? It could be interesting, but I don't think we're going to see anything like that happening here, but it could be fun.
Hey, we can't even move pieces within the top 9 without it causing a ruckus. So the place I want to go, just to kind of like go a little deeper into the Ehlers-Wheeler comparison, because I do think Rahul made some great points there. Always love when he calls in. And I do want him to keep those charts up. He's tracking a lot of the data behind some of these debates that are often going on in the fan base. So keep that up, Rahul. It's been a great resource. On the Ehlers comparison, I'm more looking at it like I don't think he's cooked this year. I think there's still a great player there. It's just obviously clearly not been what we're used to from him at 5-on-5, and what we're used to from him at 5-on-5 is him being the Winnipeg Jets' best driver and best point producer at 5-on-5. I've talked about it all year. I do think the talent he's playing with is a problem for him. I still believe that the ideal winger sets, given what you have in Winnipeg, go around Ehlers, Velarde, Connor, and Nino, or Connor and Perfetti, and work from there. Don't know if we'll ever see something like that. But where I think the comp comes in for me is I worry about a long-term contract with someone. Let's say the 5-on-5 bounces back. The comp for me is Wheeler was such a good driver, especially with when he had the top end speed. And as he got older and slowed down, we saw how much that game deteriorated and how hard it was to watch. And as big of a Nik Ehlers guy I do worry that a 7-8 year contract, as soon as that foot speed goes for him, I think his whole game's toast. So that's where I kind of worry about the longer term when we're talking about an Ehlers contract. I think he's still a massive, massive, massive component to this year's run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge for this year. And it's something that they'll have to look at when it comes time to negotiate that contract, if he even wants to. You know, again, he could just decide he's going to walk and just test the market and go out. But I don't know. I weirdly think that there's still enough in the tank that you can get the majority of that contract in a positive way from Nik Ehlers, especially in a window where I hope that this is their win now window, and I think he should be a part of that because he gives them that dimension that they need. He gives them the speed that Scott Arniel likes to talk about, that they want to play with. That's so important to their game, and he brings that. And if they lose that, they're going to have to look real hard outside the organization to try to fill it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And hey, we're not all going to necessarily agree on the right path forward. And isn't that the beauty of all this content and the interaction with our audience, which I want to thank Toronto Sports Network for saying. I really love how engaging you fellas are with your audience. I have to grad Turd. Thank you, Turd. With the credit of challenging me to become a fan. I am. Happy New Year to you both and the audience. Appreciate that.
Much appreciated.
Honestly, I look forward to doing this show and getting to talk with Mikey after every game, but I look forward to seeing what the chat's going to bring, where you guys and gals want to take the conversation. So thank you for being here. Thanks for the kind words and thanks for the support.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without all of you.
Exactly. Turd also says, Nik, don't find smaller players tend to keep their speed longer if they can stay healthy. And that's kind of the rub is Nik Ehlers has never stayed really healthy. So you've got those miles there.
I'll play the hopium role on that one. He has had injuries in the past, but injuries in the past don't necessarily equate to injuries in the future. And because of those injuries in the past, he has less miles on his legs, less games played. He could extend that career a little bit.
Hey, I admire the hopium. I won't turn down some.
I'll play the role for the agent and negotiate for him here.
And in summary, Zuch says, is Nik Ehlers our buy low candidate?
There you go. That's right. He's our own rental. That's always my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hard not to be. I'm just doing some math here real quick. Give me 1 second.
And I also want to touch on what Zuch said on the Twitch chat. Can the Jets be trusted to actually identify the quote-unquote impact player when they view Stan the way they do? And that's an interesting angle. They've never been really good at identifying NHL talent on the defense. That's been a glaring hole that we've seen quite a few times. So that's something I'm also worried about, that they may end up making a big ad on the back end, but it might be somebody that the rest of us might go, oh, okay.
Yeah, no. That's fair. I also do got to push back on Zuch here, though I'm having trouble doing math, apparently, on this day. He says that I'm forgetting Wheeler's points were heavily inflated by the power play, in which, if you look at Nik Ehlers this year, he's got 7 even strength goals, 12 even strength assists. So that's 19 points. Mm-hmm. He's got 9 power play assists and 4 power play goals, so 13 points. So 13 out of what? I can't do the math. It's closer than what we're used to seeing from Nik Ehlers, but he's also been a big factor to this power play as well, and that can't be overlooked either.
Yeah, absolutely. And the power play, it's funny, though, because the power play also needs him. We saw how different it looked that stretch while he was out, and both units end up really disjointed because of the move of moving Perfetti from 2 back onto 1. So, you know, he's maybe a little dependent on the power play points right now, but the power play is a little dependent on him too.
For sure. No, for sure. So let's let's go into the 3 stars and let's get everyone on with their Saturday nights.
Alrighty. And real quick. So Ehlers has 13 power play points before today.
Yep.
And at 5-on-5, he's got 14 points. So it's an almost even split at the moment.
It's tight.
Yep. Okay.
Who are your 3 stars in this one?
3 stars. Third star was super easy, no question. Some of the most incredible saves I've ever seen in my life tonight. Give it up to the posts and the crossbar behind Alex Lyon. That was absolute great work. Bravo. 10 out of 10. The Jets hit 4 of them tonight. That was ridiculous. Shit like that is just funny when it happens. So it's rough. Those Perfetti got 2 of them, by the way. So everybody down on Perfetti. Aha, you got 2 of those. So you can pretend like those are goals.
Stan had the nicest one though. So the
He
people
did.
down on Stan.
That's right. See, there we go. Top 4 Stan. So yeah,
Logan Orr, baby.
the posts get the 3rd star for their great saves. 2nd star, Jets medical crew. Fucking great job. Whoever stitched up Josh Morrissey, whoever took care of Colin Miller. Legitimately great job, no joke. That was just that scary stuff that happens when the pucks catch you in the face like that. It can do some real damage. So shout out to those guys and gals, whoever they were, taking care of our players. And number 1 star, give me Wolverine, Josh Morrissey. That guy's not human. I can't believe that he took that puck to the face, bloody, cut open, got stitched up, comes right back, hops on the power play. He gets my number 1 star for just being a fucking badass.
Yeah, I like it. And hey, great call on the post and crossbar, which definitely adds up in this one, as frustrating as it was. And we let loose some of those frustrations with a 3-game losing streak. This still was a game that the Winnipeg Jets could have won and maybe should have won. It's just frustrating when this team at 5-on-5 cannot produce offense consistently. And then they start hitting posts and crossbars, and it's just like, oh, here we go.
Yep.
3 stars, though. I'm having trouble with this one today. Who did I like? Who stood out to me? Number 1 star, let's start there. I don't think it was close. Josh Morrissey. I'm going to start doing this a little bit for both teams. I'm going to go Moritz Seider, number 2.
Ooh.
First time I've really gotten to watch him up close, and he's a pretty polarizing player, right? Obviously, he was drafted high. Analytics haven't been great, though he's been shoved with every single bad defenseman Steve Yzerman's tried to sign. Talk about a team not able to identify defensemen. Really liked his game tonight. And number 3, our audience, who continues to hype up our show. I'm not above reading it and basking in it for a second. Choices TK, I appreciate it, says only show that has the difficult conversations on this team. I think there's a lot of great content in the market, but I appreciate that I stand out. Mikey stands out. Top line stands out to you in that way. Love that. In which Kevin Kowalczyk also says, or Kowalek, sorry about that. Love the show, boys. Keep doing what you're doing. And Turd saying he agrees with Choice's last point, and it's why our channel audience needs to keep growing. So Turd, you got the credit tonight for bringing a friend to the show. So I'm going to say on the way out, I appreciate you all. I'm really enjoying doing this, being here with you after every game. Be a friend, tell a friend, and we'll see you Monday?
No, Tuesday's I think our next game. Tuesday. They've got a bit of a stretch to get healthy, so yeah, thank you all. Go out there, hit that like button for us, hit a subscribe button for us. It's real appreciated. If you listen to podcasts and you've got Apple Podcasts or Spotify, 5 stars on there is always real helpful. Just gets more eyes on our show, gets more listeners, more viewers, and lets us do more fun things with all of you. So like Nick said, tell 2 friends, rate, review, and remember, it's the landing strip for your Winnipeg Jets postgame.